Hello and thanks for watching. What we are looking to help you with hopefully today is the best ways to maintain, clean and seal your block paving, whether that be a driveway or a patio. My name is Nigel Blake. I've worked within the paving industry for in excess of 20 plus years now, and I've been involved in all aspects of that process, whether it be the preparation, the laying, the cleaning, the sealing, the maintaining of really all external surfaces that are used for driveways or patios, but particularly block paving. So the reason you're watching today is possibly that you've got some sort of frustration with your block paving. The picture on the right obviously looks lovely, picture on the left not so good, and really this is a common theme with block paving, which if you think about it, we've got a porous brick being laid into a bed of sand with sand in the joints, put in the joints there, and in a damp climate such as our own, if there's not a degree of maintenance, then often things can start to pretty quickly look a little bit grubby. We can see on the example here, there's some weeds coming through in different areas. We've got some moss, and then some generally, this black, most people think it's dirt, but it's lichens and algae that are just living on the dampness of the blocks. So all of these problems here can be treated, and certainly with a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of commitment there's no reason why we shouldn't keep the property looking very nice. On the next example here, we can see weed growth has become very prevalent on the left hand side, but again the right hand side, literally a day or two's work, little bit of investment in some materials and some proper cleaning techniques. Not only do the block paving does it look as good as new, but also it's protected, and from this point on was very easy to maintain. Should never need to get back to the condition featured in the picture on the left. And again, different kind of example, but a different kind of problem. Almost certainly this area here could be sort of north facing, gets very little sun, always stays damp, and again that helps the green algae flourish. But again, the encouraging thing here, little bit of work, a little bit of commitment there, and looks as good as new and protected. So we're going to talk you through the various steps today in a logical fashion, and really make sure that the major points on how to do the job properly are covered. So same as any job, whether it be a professional job or a DIY job, preparation is the key, and certainly all the products here will help you not only achieve a better result, but also speed up the process. Certainly if you've got weeds or moss on your driveway, you want to make sure that before you start pressure washing, you've applied some materials to kill those various growths off. Why is that? One, it will make life a lot easier. You'll be able to clean a lot quicker, but certainly particularly with weeds, you don't just want to be chopping the heads off the weeds, so to respect. They will very quickly re-establish themselves. What you're looking to do is get the weed killed, get the roots killed, and then the subsequent work you do with the resanding and the sealing, you're going to see far more value from that. With the oil remover and the driveway cleaner, obviously self-explanatory. With the oil remover, any stains, it's worth making that bit of effort to clean them off before you start finishing, applying the sealers, etc., to get the job looking as good as possible. And then with the driveway cleaner, really what that's going to do is remove all the pollutants and residue off exhaust and tyres, and also open up the pores of the block, get all the muck out of those pores, so that when again you go to the sealing aspect of finishing the job correctly, the sealer can penetrate properly into the block, and you get maximum benefit from the products. So just kind of summarising on why it's worth maintaining and the benefits of maintaining your block paving here. You can see from the example here where all block paving is always laid. An integral part of laying block paving properly is that it has to be laid into a bed of sand. You've then got a porous brick sitting into that sand and sand in the joints here, which quickly, as you can see here, has gone from a nice yellow to effectively mud, which then encourages the moss, the weeds and the various algae to grow. So what we're looking to do with our maintenance and cleaning process is really clean the blocks back as good as new. Replace the kiln dried sand, get some nice fresh sand in there, and then get not only the blocks protected with the sealer but also solidify the jointing sand. Now once that process is complete, the blocks are not only protected and water resistant, but also they're not going to continue to lose their colour. Generally, if you see block paving in excess of 10 years old, you know, where it could have been quite vibrant in terms of colours initially, a lot of that colour has been lost. So again, one of the major benefits of applying the sealer is that you will find that you don't lose any further colour from the blocks themselves, and they are protected against further wear and tear. So here, for example, is this is actually a job that I worked on myself. The person on the left decided just to clean their driveway. Person on the right decided to clean and seal their driveway. So yeah, you can see, because the sealer has, for all intents and purposes, what it's done is made the driveway water resistant. So it still looks nice and clean. There's no real growth. You know, there's a bit of, obviously this is just foliage off of the trees and the shrubs just sitting on top there, but same on both drives. But what you can see is this driveway looks freshly cleaned, whereas this one, again, those grubby, you know, it looks dirty, the grubby algae and lichens where the block pavers are always damp have re-established themselves. Now the danger is here that certainly if this customer again decided to clean their drive, it would go back looking like this for a certain period. But the danger is you can't on a regular basis pressure wash your driveway, because if you can imagine, if this driveway is let's say it's 10 years old, but during that time it may be have been cleaned 2 or 3 times, that pressure washing process is the equivalent of 5 years, approximately 5 years exposure to the elements. So rather than being a 10-year-old drive, with the pressure washing, that drive has now had the exposure of a 25-year-old drive, and is quickly going to start you know, looking very tired, losing its colour, and you know, really probably before too long look like the blocks need replacing. Whereas if they are maintained, that aspect of deterioration just doesn't occur. So if we're looking to do the job, we're looking to, of course, do it properly. I'm working on the basis here that we've applied our weed killers, our moss clear products, whatever was required, the driveway cleaners. We've got rid of our oil stains. We're now ready to go with our pressure washer. And really, this is an important aspect. What we're trying to highlight here is that when you're cleaning, you need to clean properly. You need to get a good percentage of the muck out of the joints. Now most block pavers are maybe a 40 mil deep. Certainly it wouldn't be a good idea to try and take 40 mil of all that muck out of the joints. It could easily, one, destabilize the blocks, and two, is probably not even possible. But you want to manage to take a decent percentage, maybe 20 mil of sand out of those joints. Now the point we're making here is, you can see the same properly cleaned. You can see daylight behind between all these blocks here, and then here partially cleaned. You can still see a percentage of muck build up in the joints, and we're making a point again here, substandard blocks, substandard cleaning, 12 days later already the weeds have started to establish itself. If you can imagine, if you're spending a few hours literally pumping water into these blocks, not cleaning the joints properly, then you're creating the perfect environment for that growth to be very happy, all that moisture for it to very quickly establish itself. So you need to make sure that the pavers have been cleaned properly. And normally what I would do is when I go back to resand the job, I would have on hand a screwdriver or a Stanley knife or something where any joints that I've missed, I just scrape those out to make sure that every joint is cleaned before I move on with the next part of the process. But and in terms of a pressure washer, of course, same thing, better the tools, the easier the job. But there's no reason why a decent DIY machine can't do the job. Of course, if you're a professional contractor and you've got a £1,200, £1,500 machine, £1,000 machine, even better. You're just going to go faster. There's no reason why you shouldn't do the job properly with a basic model, but a more expensive model is just going to work that much quicker. So now one thing to just always bear in mind, the resanding, the sealing process can do a lot of things to look after, maintain, get your block paving looking good, but it can't do everything. It can't hold poorly laid paving together. The joints are very strong, but as I say, it cannot repair block paving. So just be careful, take a good look around your property before you start any kind of cleaning work, and just make sure your driveway is properly laid. As you can see in the example here, the pavers here running out of line, which shows that the paving is moving here. That's highlighted by the fact that there's a greater build up of muck in the joints. That's because these joints are opening up further, and of course here very obviously the edgings are breaking away. There's wholesale movement. So if this was one of my customers, or I was looking to do the work for myself, I'd be looking to have these sections repaired, properly repaired, lifted, rebased before I moved on with the cleaning side of the job. So the sealer and the cleaning process can do a lot of things, but it can't achieve miracles. So again, I'm now projecting us forward. I'm working on the basis that we've all done an expert job on cleaning the pavers, and now we're just waiting with the next part of the process. And again, just as cleaning the pavers correctly is absolutely key, if you're looking to use the sealers, then certainly the next part of the process is absolutely key, starting with making sure that you leave long enough for the paving to dry properly before you even think about resanding or sealing the block pavers. So again, it's a bit of an unnatural thing. If you can imagine, dependent on the type of machine, it could be you're pumping 5, 10, 15 litres per minute of water into these blocks. Even in the good weather, it's going to take a few days to dry. So make sure, generally, if I'm doing a job for a customer, I would say to the customer, don't really expect to see me for about 7 days, depending on how the weather behaves. But normally, so I would leave the job for approximately 7 days to dry before thinking of sanding or sealing. Of course, if it's the middle of August, 90 degrees, hasn't rained for 3 weeks or something, then that period of time can be cut down dramatically, but certainly there's more to be lost from trying to sand and seal too quickly than just maybe waiting a few days. And of course, if you went back and there's a few bits of bird metal, something, these can easily be cleaned off. You don't need to think that, oh, it's not been sanded or sealed for 2 weeks, do I need to clean it again, etc. That's not necessary. Now, So that's the drying time, covered the point there. When to sand, the reason I'm highlighting that is that you want to only be sanding on the day when you're looking to apply the sealer. Let's say, for example, you've waited for a few days for the paving to dry, and then the night before you're going to seal the drive or patio, you decide to re-sand it. Okay, there's then a 5-minute shower, 10-minute shower, 15-minute shower, doesn't really matter. That sand gets soaking wet and would now take a further few days to dry again, whereas that little bit of rain just on the blocks itself would have evaporated within an hour. Okay, so the point I'm making here is only sand on the same day you're going to seal. Then so we're trying to give general advice here on just to help you look after your block paving better. When it comes to sealer, you've got various options. As a company, we offer solvent-based sealers, we offer eco-friendly sealers in a variety of finishes. You should see most of the information you require on the Smart Seal website. You can look at your options there, what's right for you. But of course, any questions, always give us a call. The benefit of maybe the silk or the gloss type product, as you can see from the example here, certainly those products do rejuvenate, revitalize the color, and that is an additional benefit of the sealer. It can really turn tired looking paving back to new. And then the final point we make here is correct sealer coverage per square meter. As a company, we would rather people not buy our products than try and spread them too thin. You end up with a disappointed customer because he doesn't think the sealer's achieved what he thought it would, and we end up with our brand not being seen in the marketplace in the positive way that it should be. So certainly our advice would be either use the right amount of sealer, don't use it at all. If you work out you need £500 worth, £300 worth of sealer, don't think I'll just buy one drum and see how far I get, because you're just going to end up disappointed. It's just not worth trying to cut corners. And you can see here some examples on what I'm trying to emphasize. Example on the right here, you can see how far that sand is now solid in the joints. This example represents a cut-off section of a block paver, and the sand in the joints there, and basically the further the sealer penetrates, then the longer that joint is going to stabilize, the more resistant to growth and etc. and weeds it's going to be. And of course, the further the sealer penetrates into the block itself and the more protection there is there, the better that is going to, easier that's going to maintain, and the more benefits from the sealer itself. So certainly don't cut corners, and also be very careful the information that you can see on some websites. People talking about 2 or 3, even 4 times the coverage that we would recommend for our sealers. Yes, any sealer can spread that far, but what you don't want is just a tiny little crust of penetration into the sand, which after a few weeks is just going to break down. You're going to see very little benefit if there's only a tiny amount of sealer on the block itself. And as I say, it's very easy just to end up wasting good money, rather than just concentrating on doing the job properly. And this is again just an example on how strong and how effective the sealers can be. 3 block pavers there, surprising how heavy they are, but these, in this example, they're just held together. Sorry, just flick back there. They're just held together through the sand and sealer alone, so it creates a very strong bond. But say if you don't use enough sealer, you're just wasting your time. Okay, so let's say that everything's clean, everything's dry, we're ready to go, and we're looking at the materials we require to effectively properly sand and seal our block paving. So we start with the kiln dried sand that you can see here. Kiln dried sand, decent sanding broom. make sure that you take all the sand. You want your joints nicely filled, but you don't want any sand left on the surface of the blocks, because whether it be an acrylic, polyurethane or an eco-friendly block paving sealer, anything left on the surface of the blocks is going to be effectively glued on there. So you don't want a scattering of sand permanently on the face of the blocks, definitely spoiling the look. And that is one reason, probably 8 out of 10 driveways in this country that have been sealed with a roller. So it's absolutely, particularly as a one-off for a homeowner, the most cost-effective way of sealing your block pavement. But just be careful that you only let the roller glide across the surface of the blocks with quite a lot of sealer on there. What you don't want to be doing is putting any pressure on the roller and dragging the sand out of the joints, and say it's effectively painting the surface and gluing grains of sand to the surface. You won't be very happy, certainly family won't be very impressed, so just make sure you avoid that. If you decide to go down the line of using a sprayer, just make sure it's got a Viton seals to handle the nature of the chemicals, and again can handle the viscosity of the sealers as well. Again, the kind of thing you would pick up in a local DIY store, 30-40 pound sprayer for looking after your roses in your garden. That's not going to be fit for purpose. So as I say, if it's a one-off job, you might be just better off sticking with a roller kit. But we have sprayers, there's various other companies have sprayers available, but just make sure you get a piece of kit that's fit for purpose. Okay, so we're just looking there at the various methods, and say sprayer, self-explanatory. What you're really looking to do, that's myself working there in that picture, and I would be looking to really have that sealer puddling in front of me at my feet to know that it's then going to penetrate deep enough to do a proper job into the blocks and the sand there. With the roller kit, so really same sort of principle, plenty of sealer on the roller, and that will quickly penetrate. And then on the right hand side, this kind of squeegee, slightly different technique, but at the end of the video, at the end of the information on this video, there will be a couple of links where you can see that product being applied properly using the squeegee technique. So certainly just one to look out for there. And normally with these products, I would be applying 2 coats to make sure the job's done properly. And after the first coat, just checking that the sand in the joints there hadn't congealed and sunk down a little bit. So I would be prepared an hour or two after the first coat just to walk over, and any sand which is saturated down a little bit excuse me, I just replace that to make sure there's no voids there where it could be very easy for weeds and that to start to re-establish themselves. Few more examples here of what could be cleaned. I remember doing this job. This was for a friend of mine, and this was oh, excuse me, a sort of 10-year-old driveway that come back looking really nice, and with the sealer as well, kept looking good for many years to come. Another example here, not the worst conditioned drive in the world, but certainly you can see areas where it was getting tired. Really, this was the right time to try and look after and get it clean and get the sealer there, because the lichens, the algae were just starting to establish themselves, and certainly the driveway was beginning to lose colour after 8 of 10 years. But you can see in the example here, come back looking as good as new. And then again, never let anyone tell you otherwise. Of course, any external surface in this country is going to need a little bit of aftercare, a little bit of maintenance, and certainly your driveway is no different. We wouldn't expect to take our car, had that service once and then it to last forever, or have our windows cleaned and then for them to stay nice and clean forever. You get the principle here. So certainly I would say, to get the maximum value from the work that you've done, get the maximum value and longevity from the sealers that you've applied, maybe say to yourself, twice a year you're going to spend maybe a few hours, half a day, maybe an hour, dependent on the size of your driveway or patio, just doing a couple of basic things. With all forms of block paving, I'm not sure how clearly here, but if you've got block paving you'll know what I mean. You've got a little bevel edge here, where a little void here where left unswept, again sort of residue off of tyres, muck out of trees, generally things can start to build up in those joints, and if they're allowed to build up, that's when the moss, the weeds, the algae will start to re-establish itself. So I would suggest a couple of times a year, maybe south facing areas only once, north facing maybe 2 or 3, who knows, but we're not talking a lot of period of time here to do the work, and certainly very little cost in materials. But just be prepared to sweep the drive occasionally, stop any residue building up in the joints. If you see some sort of green algae and that appearing on the blocks where say it kind of really they're staying damp, they don't get much sun and that in the winter, just put this on with a watering can. That will get rid of all that green, and then again once or twice a year, just to help everything stay under control, watering can, dilute weed killer, just to stop anything building up and developing in those joints. And I'm emphasizing the point here, we don't need to think about pressure washing, just a light hose down, again just maybe once, maybe twice a year, just a light hose down and a broom. This will keep your driveway, your patio looking good for many years to come. And then if you work on the basis, again depending on wear and tear, but a top up coat of sealer maybe every 3 years if you want to really keep it looking nice, or if you just want to keep on top of it, maybe that would be 5 years. But as I say, the point I'm making here, a little bit of maintenance once you've got your driveway or patio looking as good as new, a little bit of maintenance, you can keep it under control and looking great. So hopefully this helps. As I say, we're always on hand. I'm sure that you might have some other questions that the information we've supplied here has conjured up for you, but always feel free to get in touch, and thanks very much for watching.